Hey everybody, welcome to this third week of DevToberfest, Fun Friday. This is a segment that we've called How Did I Miss That? So for this, we're just going to have a relaxed conversation about times that we have been involved with technology, coding, demonstrating something, and we either missed something and it went wrong, or just we're not all perfect is the point. So I'm going to put a little quiz out after this as a validation tutorial so you can earn some points if you watch this in the DevToberfest contest. I think we've been having a lot of people participate, which is awesome. And we appreciate everybody out there for watching this, which is just a bunch of us developer advocates sitting around and having a chat and possibly a beverage of choice on a Friday afternoon or evening. So I'm going to stop talking for a second and get everybody else introduce themselves. I'm Josh Bentley, as you may or may not know. And who's next out there that wants to say hello?
I'll go. DJ, I'm DJ Adams.
Hey everybody, Rich Heilman here.
Hey, it's me, Kevin Riedelsheimer.
Hello, Thomas Young.
Oh, there's always one. There's always
He's
one.
on mute. He waved. I saw Riley waving.
You know what this reminds me of? I think
How did I miss that?
Oh, did I miss that?
Riley, Rainey here.
Riley.
Thank you.
I think the original program was from the US anyway. In the UK, it's called University Challenge. Is it called College Bowl or something?
College Bowl.
College Bowl.
Uh-huh.
It sounded like we're not as intelligent as the College Bowl participants, but it sounded and it felt like, oh, my name's DJ and I'm reading classics.
All right, so you just did something. This is completely not planned. I saw this the other day, and I'm going to ask it now. And the other developer advocates, by the way, are going to record some segments and send them to me, and I'll edit them into this meeting so we can share more stories from around the globe. As you know, we're a global team, so it's sometimes tough to get everybody into the same meeting to record at the same time. That being said, if you were to write out numbers with the letters, so number one would be ONE. What is the highest number between 1 and a million that you can write out without using the letter N? So like, for example, the number 10 is between 1 and a million, but it uses the letter N, T-E-N. What is the highest number between 1 and a million? Can anybody out there guess that? I should have saved this for trivia night, but you just talking about College Bowl made me think of it. The highest number you can write out.
8 million, 8. Oh, no.
How do you spell million? And also the prompt was between 1 and a million. So
yeah. I bet it's going to be quite a low number. Something like
no Googling out there. I see Rich's hands moving.
There you go. I'm running through them in my head right now.
Yeah, you're gonna spell each one in a row.
That's what I was doing.
I'm doing it right now.
Rich is doing
just like a computer program would do. I just iterate over all the possibilities.
Yeah.
38. 38. There you go. How about that one?
So that's your guess is the highest, okay?
88.
Okay, how do you spell 48? How do you spell 58? See? There's no N. That's the key. You have to get to the highest one you can spell without the letter N.
88.
It's late. My brain doesn't go any higher than this at this time of night.
I heard a guess out there.
88.
Correct.
Nice.
Yep. Everything after 88, you have to use the letter
I'm done.
N.
I can sign off now.
Yeah, there you go. That was a cool little icebreaker.
Yeah. Nice.
All right, so
your week's done. Go home, Rich.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to tell a quick story that has to do. No one involved in this team was involved in this incident. It took place a long time ago, and
do we have to change the names to protect the innocent? Or?
No, I don't know if my old manager is watching this from a different company, but if he is, I apologize for sharing the story. I'm not going to use your name. So I just moved to Pennsylvania. It was 1999, and we were a growing company, and we needed to move our data center. So we literally were racking Dell Latitude servers in the back of a pickup truck and driving them to the new data center. We were building the right line racks in the data center and setting up a brand new, pretty nice system for all the systems to run on. We put in all the environmentals. We've been building this building out. And we got to the point where we were up and running in the brand new data center with all the stuff that was required to operate our company. Probably at the time had 600 to 800 company employees based in the East Coast of the US. And we were getting to the point where we're like, hey, we need to test this system to make sure everything's working if we have a power outage, because we had power coming into the front and the back of the building. We had this UPS system, and somebody said, hey, well, there's a switch there clearly that you flip. We called it a submarine switch that you would turn from off to standby, and it would put the power from the street power to the batteries until the diesel generator would kick on. It had been tested during setup, but it hadn't been tested since we had powered on all the computer systems. And this is where we get to the code part in a second. I don't know if you know Windows NT very well in networking, but part of my team's job was to set up Windows NT prior to Active Directory coming out, which was in, I think, 99 or 2000. It actually came out. With Windows 2000, it did. And Active Directory made it much easier to recover and rebuild your entire email system. But if somebody flips that switch on the power system and the entire system, you hear everything in the room go, it just goes quiet. And there's no electrical hum. And they all
Sorry,
look.
what was the noise it makes? Can you do that again? Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So imagine standing in an air-conditioned room with data racks and hearing all the sound go off, and people would look in those windows to look into the data center and see you standing there. And then somebody comes out and says, what just happened? I said, we were told to test the system. And so then we figured out the batteries in the UPS were wired in serial, and one of the wires connecting two batteries together was loose. So while we had a fully operational UPS system, uninterrupted power source, one of the wires in it wasn't connected, and we didn't know. So the coding part that comes in is just, we didn't know how long it would take to recover email, because at the time we didn't have Active Directory, we had Windows NT, and we had all the stuff that went into the email system and powering it. And so we were trying to reboot all of our email servers. So we were down from that 1 minute of losing power and powering everything back on. Servers came back up, but it took 16 hours for our entire email system to get back up and running correctly in 1999. So 600 to 800 employees were all, they couldn't email us, which was awesome, but they could call us. And yeah, that was one of my, infrastructure is important, and you have to test it, but don't ever do it when your company's live and running without a complete backup plan. So those are the old days.
Nice.
Anyway.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I know somebody who did almost the same thing. I was working at a video reproduction company in Brentford in West London. And he was showing his boss, he was my boss, and he was showing, he ran the SAP and other DevOpsy type stuff there. And he was showing his boss around, and there was this big generator. And, this was having, we were live, everything was. And he said, oh, yeah, look, you can just turn the switch off here. And we lost everything. Same thing. If you see a switch, don't touch it.
Very nice. All right. Anybody else have a story they want to share next?
I have a story. So I started with SAP with my professional career in 2015. And I think it was like around 2017 when developer advocacy, back then developer evangelism, reached out to me the first time and asked me if I could do a talk for them, because back then they didn't have an iOS evangelist. And I was working in iOS development, if I could do a talk in London about whatever iOS topic I wanted to. Just to represent SAP, because they were a big sponsor back then. And I said, sure, I'll try it out and see how this goes. And that was with Ian Thane. So I flew out to London. I was super nervous. It was my first business trip, and I was about to meet that amazing evangelist, Ian Thane. and I didn't know who he was. I was just curious. I heard so much about him. So I met him. We did go to this conference, iOS Con, and they showed me the room where my talk would be. And that room could fit like, it was like 200 people or so. And nobody told me before. So it was the first time outside of university. And at university, we were like 20 people max. It was a small university, where I had to give a talk in front of like a lot of people. So I was like super nervous. And my talk was basically a demo, and we were experimenting the with Swift and trying to build reusable controls for the first prototype of what is the SAP BTP SDK for iOS today. So that was super wonky stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna demo that. So I was setting everything up, checking the room, and I was super nervous. And I knew that back then Apple allowed building controls which you would use within your own project, but they were not super happy about providing like frameworks with controls in them. So they had an API to do that, but it was like not treated very well, so it was a little bit wonky. So I knew if everything goes wrong, my Xcode will crash, everything will crash, and I will stand there in front of 200 people and I wouldn't know what to do. So that was my biggest fear. And I started giving the introduction, blah, blah, blah. And as you all know, as soon as you start and get into it, you kind of lose your fear. You just go on. And we came to the demo part, and everyone was super excited. And I started demoing, everything went perfectly fine. And then all of a sudden, worst case scenario, I built a project. I wanted to compile it, build it, and run that control I've built. And Xcode crashes. And the worst part is not only Xcode crashed, everything froze. And I was so nervous. Usually when you're at home, you know what you do, right? But at that point, I didn't really know what to do. And I just standing just standing up there and super nervous. Everyone's looking at me, and I hear a voice in the back, and I still don't know who that was. And I was just like silently saying, calm down, you got this. I'm like, all right. And I got Xcode back up and running, and I could fix the issue. It was, I don't even know what it was. It was like something which the compiler didn't pick up, but it was clearly a bug I've produced which caused Xcode to crash, and I kind of fixed it, and yeah, saved the day for me at least. People liked it, but that was one of my biggest shock moments I ever had.
Good
Is
recovery.
that when you went to Windows and Android exclusively?
Right.
For those who don't know, Kevin loves Apple.
Yeah, I do.
I know
I'm
that
just not
feeling
allowed
that
to wear my shirt.
I know that feeling that you're talking about, Kevin, when you know perfectly well what to do back home and you could work it out in a matter of minutes, but if there's 200 pairs of eyes on you, somehow you lose your mind and you don't know what to do next. I get it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I had many situations like that where I was in like a classroom style thing where I had some compile time error and I didn't really know where it was coming from. But the thing is, if you're in front of 20 people, everyone tries helping you to fix it, right?
Right.
So it's kind of a fun thing to do, and then you find the error and it's fine, and you all laugh and it's cool. But being like in front of 200 people, trying to tell them that you're the expert on this, and then you mess up, it's kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was basically also my entry door into advocacy. But yeah,
And you stuck
that is,
around after that experience. So
I
must
did.
not have been too bad.
I did.
You know, sometimes the adrenaline rush from something like that, not half bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also had a couple of beers after, so it was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. When I came from IT, some of the thick skin that I built up for failing was being somebody who had to answer those questions, like why did you do this? Why is this down? How are you going to migrate next time? And your learning experiences build. And then every demo, the demos that fail because of Wi-Fi or because I trusted a server that was not the server I should have been trusting to run my project in, and instead I should have built my own version. You get those things though are like they said to you, Kevin. You got this, because everybody who works on stuff, they understand what you're going through, and they do want to help, they do want to empathize. It's just a matter of you having to stand there and feel that pressure, and do you want to come back and do it again? It's that
Right.
Why do you come back? And I come back because I get to hopefully help other people connect with the code and do what they want to do to actually build their applications. And just know that the presentation is just a means to an end. It doesn't have to be perfect to get them to interface with the code. They might not even remember your screw up because they're so happy they got connected to the code.
I just like people clapping for me, but it's okay that you want to help people.
Nice. Well, I don't ever seek attention, as we all know.
No, I think that's perfectly right what you're saying. It's just like everyone in that audience probably experienced something like that, and if they didn't, they cannot relate, so they don't judge. Like no one's really judging. So I think the developer audience and the community in general is like a really forgiving. Like I've never met any people who are really toxic.
I think I have a rule of three, that if one person comes to me with a problem, like on a show floor or something, like if they're using a system and they're doing a test and one person points out an issue, I go, yeah, they probably just didn't read the instructions or understand. If two people do it, it's a coincidence. And if three people do it, we better hurry up and fix the problem in the background because it's wrong.
Right.
And we're going to get exposed very quickly. So they're just coming to you saying, I'm trying to proceed and learn and do what you told me. So if your system is having an issue that more than two people report, you better hurry up and investigate.
I mean, to your point, Kevin, I think generally, I think it's fair to say that, these huge events for us or big mistakes or whatever, it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's just when it's going to happen and how often. Right. It happens to everybody. In fact, Josh asked all of us, have we got a specific story to recount and everything? And I said, well, no. But the reason I said no is because I make mistakes all the time. So, and it just goes into a blur. It's just like my past is a constant like sea of failure, right? So I don't know. I can't pick out anything in particular. But something you said, Kevin, reminded me that actually one of the most recent spectacular fails was when I was putting together the code and other stuff for August's developer challenge, and which involves, we develop advocates, as you know. We do these developer challenges, month-long things. Right now, there's one going on in September from Dina. It's awesome. So I was doing a developer challenge in August, and I was putting together some code and some server software and some other bits and pieces. I was like, oh yeah, in the evening I was coding away, and I'm not an evening person. Command line. I was getting so carried away that I'd forgotten to do frequent commits, saving things as I went along. It was in a repo, didn't commit or anything. I was going to commit at the end and commit a beautiful, perfect bit of code. But I like my sort of working area really clean, so I always delete these test files and whatever. So I did an RM and then a file name with an asterisk, to delete all the files beginning with this, right? But I put a space before the asterisk for I don't know why, right? My finger hit the space bar. And what did I do? I deleted everything that I'd created for the past 3 hours. Gone. No backup, no nothing, no tightrope. I'm a Unix person, no tightrope, no tightrope. What's the word? No
safety net.
No safety net. Cheers. No safety net. And it was gone. And it was 3 hours work. And it took me 2 hours to recreate it. So it wasn't that bad, but yeah.
So can you do a table flip at your new place? Because that was a table flip moment.
What's a table flip moment?
Just like flip the table.
Oh, I was so mad. No, I didn't do a table flip. I said some choice words.
I forgot to mention, we'll be monitoring the chat here and try and make some comments if you guys watching want to comment and tell your story or make a comment about what we're saying, we're going to try and be as interactive in the chat as we can as possible. To that end, if anybody out there has had a table flip moment or some other,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
I've got one on that in that vein.
Go ahead, Riley.
So, so I lost a whole chapter of a book, which was the only chapter that I was putting in to a particular. It was actually Introduction to on a cloud platform. This dates me, right? I was doing and Kev will appreciate this. I was doing the mobile chapter for that book, and I was really proud of it. It was great. In fact, headed to Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and I had to upload it in an airport. So I'm in an airport with my Mac, and I get an email from IT saying I can't connect to the network until I upgrade my machine. And I was like already a couple of days behind on this deadline. So I connect to the local network and started to do the Mac upgrade. And something went bad on the network, and the Mac upgrade actually bricked my Mac.
Yes.
And no backup. And I did not flip a table, but I was pretty close to it. But the moral of that story was that ultimately I had to rewrite the chapter. I was still on the hook to deliver this. And I felt like I actually did a better job the second time around with a complete rewrite than if I had actually delivered what I was supposed to deliver. So sometimes it's good asking yourself, is this really ready to go? But yeah, IT requirements sometimes can create wrinkles in your life that you aren't expecting otherwise.
So did you
Sometimes.
miss one of two things? What would you say you missed, or both? Is it you missed never try to do a machine update when you're not in the office, or never try to submit a final draft until you've read it again?
Well, my obvious one was probably the first one, but yeah, a really solid review, and not working against somebody else's schedule when you absolutely don't have to is probably a good idea as well.
So many lessons there. So many lessons.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Was that public Wi-Fi you were doing an OS upgrade on?
I think it was a lounge Wi-Fi, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure of the details there. But no, I would not try to do something like that on a public free Wi-Fi. Yeah.
I mean, based on the timing of HANA Cloud Platform, I would say you were operating just above 19 baud rate. So
yeah, this was like 2014, something like that. Yeah.
and those macOS updates are heavy.
They are. Yeah.
They are heavy.
Yeah, lesson learned there, right?
nice.
Yeah. If IT tells you to upgrade your machine, just do it.
Well, you guys should get Windows machines like me and Tom.
Yeah.
This will never gonna happen.
What machine? Sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly.
A machine you would throw out the window.
I have one right here, and it's just for gaming, and I really just use it only for gaming, and even that is just horrible for me.
I think we should go back to mainframe. Isn't then we're all on terminals. We don't have any upgrades to do. It's just a beautiful mainframe. It's like the end of a serial line. Heaven.
You always remember me of my professor at university who loved to tell the story, and I don't even know the right word for it, but back then when you had to like stamp or stance like your code into like I don't
Punch
even know,
cards?
like
Punch cards.
thank you, punch cards. And he loved to talk about punch cards and how amazing it was. And I was like, nothing about this sounds great. Like literally nothing.
I'll have to come round to your house and educate you with a big stick.
Yeah. So I broke one of those tutorials on Tech at once, like from the what was it, a coding garage or whatever it's called. Yeah, I had a developer garage. Yeah, so I had a tutorial in the iOS area there, and I found a bug, and it was nothing major. It was just like some misspelling or something, but it bothered me. So I got the master push rights to push changes without review. And I thought, I'm very smart. I'm just gonna fix that. And then I found a different bug and I fixed that. So I had a huge commit with a bunch of fixes, and I kind of destroyed my master. So the tutorial didn't work anymore. So when people refreshed, the tutorial was not there anymore. So the whole area was lost. Nobody could do the tutorial again. So that was also a big fail.
Yeah, I remember that. I was standing near you when it happened. And I think Ian was there, and he had his iPhone recording on a tripod, and he was like doing interviews, and we were running around him. He was like, "You guys need any help?" We're like, "No, we're good. We're good."
It was a panic moment.
Yeah.
But
So what's the lesson learned there? Don't move to production right in the middle of an event.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It just really bothered me. I had to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of us get hung up on spelling errors and other things. It happens.
Who
But
are you
to be
referring
honest,
to?
but when we're
DJ?
talking
I have no idea
about,
what you're talking about.
yeah,
DJ,
right.
have you ever read those things where they take all the vowels out and it's just the consonants, and you don't realize it until they say, "Now go back and reread the paragraph"?
I'm okay with that because that's deliberate.
I just love when DJ texts me, I don't want to be picky, but
Nice. All right, Richard, Tom, any stories before we continue to pick on DJ?
Rich, you want to go first, or
I don't really have any
Okay.
stories. I've been doing a lot of stupid crap lately, so it's all kind of, I mean, it's all kind of melding together. So it's just the way I live my life now, doing stupid crap every day. But if we're talking about failures and successes, and how we do work, I mean, that's how, I mean, I have to say that there are a few successes sprinkled in throughout my day, and the rest is all failures, but that's how I learn, right? I learn by doing and failing, and failing often, and that's good advice for any developer, I think. But it just seems like I've been doing that a lot more here lately. In my older age, things don't look the same on screen, or or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I had a really stupid mistake yesterday, and it comes back to spelling mistakes, which really irked me. But I published I put a new 2 minutes of ABAP video out there yesterday, or whatever it was, and it was about CDS simple types. And for whatever reason, I had the word simple spelled wrong. Instead of the lowercase I had an L, and I didn't pick it up because it looked perfectly fine with me, my old eyes, and these glasses that may need updated already. It looked perfectly fine to me, but it was only until hours later, until after I posted it on LinkedIn and Twitter, and everybody grabbed a hold of it and reposted it, that I realized that the I in simple was really an L. And so I changed it on the YouTube side, but that does nothing for when people link to it in LinkedIn and Twitter. So it's still hanging out there with that L, but you probably wouldn't notice it if you didn't look close enough. But it's very irritating for me right now because I know it's there and I can't fix it. But this is just one example of some of the stupid mistakes that I've been making lately.
Sorry, I know you're going to say something else, Tom, but that reminds me, I don't know why it reminds me, but that reminds me of one of many brilliant quotes from Larry Wall. And put in the comments who you think Larry Wall is. I think some people here will know who. I think I'm looking at Riley, who will know who Larry Wall is. Creator of one of the most wonderful programming languages ever. Anyway, he said, one of the quotes is, "And don't tell me there's not a bit of difference between space and null, because that's exactly how much difference there is." Now, think about that and put it in the chat why that makes sense.
I guess we're all doing that right now.
we're giving people time to type.
Well, I'll bring up just a point. I can't remember the term, and I don't have read the Wikipedia article on it, but it's when people purposely record something wrong, especially on the social media platforms, trying to get people to comment down below that no, you said tabs and spaces when it's really null and space or whatever. And so it's using the wrong thing on purpose in your recording, which I think devalues you as an expert, but they'll devalue themselves as a social media influencer by saying the wrong thing to get people to comment wildly about how wrong they were. And then that increases their algorithmic, views.
Like error bait, clickbait type thing, isn't it?
There you go.
I don't need to try and do things wrong. I do things wrong all the time. So, I'm way ahead of the pack.
Nice.
I bet Tom's got loads of stories.
Yeah, and before he does that, I think that Rich made a great point about failing a lot. So fail early, fail often. And a lot of the developers that come to us and still ask the question, what code should I learn? Or, how do I get a job at SAP? And all these things people talk about when we're either at Tech Ed in person or when we meet people at code jams. And I think it's just put your code out there somewhere visible, do your commits on GitHub or make comments in the community. And that way we can actually have a dialogue with you. And so we love Devtoberfest and all the volume of activity we get during the year. And we want to keep that going throughout the rest of the year. So our point as developer advocates is not just sharing these stories about when we've made mistakes. It's to be more human and real with you, our audience, so that you can, we're always here is the point. And I think some of us talk more than others. But anyway, DJ, you look like you have a comment.
That's a great point. And in fact, I'll extend that point by saying that I think in my experience, the people who are most successful in the SAP community, and that includes internal SAP people, externals, individuals, people who work at customers, partners, whatever. In my experience, those are the people who are most successful are the people who share the most. Who, on whatever community platform it is, I've been doing this and blah, 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 and I think this, and here's what I found, or help people, and this is not any sort of platitude. It is how it is, because there are some people who like to keep the knowledge to themselves. That's fine, whatever, bye, see you next year. And there are most people who share, and that's what makes a community. But that also what makes individuals grow and become great. So that's my addition to what you just said.
Not that I'm saying I'm great or anything, but you're absolutely right, because basically that's how I learned a lot of the ABAP skills that I did first starting out. Is I joined SDN and I started contributing to the answering questions, because if I didn't know the answer to those questions, I'd go over here and figure it out for myself, so that I knew and I could use it later on for my company, and then go back and answer the person's questions. But in doing that, it forced me to go out there and figure it out for myself. And that's how I learned ABAP way back in the day, is basically seeing what other people's challenges were, figuring them out, and then I learned that myself as well. Good point.
You can almost say, the most important skill a developer has is being able to learn. The most important attribute that a developer can have is curiosity. End of. Whether you're a front-end person, whether you're like weird and like Kevin with iOS and Swift and all that weird stuff, or whether you're an ABAPer, or whether you're an assembler, or I'm looking at you, Riley, or whether you're a Perl programmer or Node.js or JQ, whatever. It doesn't matter. The language doesn't matter. The platform doesn't matter. The architecture doesn't matter, unless it's SOAP, of course, or XML RPC, I won't say what I was going to say. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're learning stuff, you're sharing it, and you're like, how does that work? Let me find out. Okay, I found out. Let me share it. That's it. End of. That's the equation. Anyway, we're going off track, aren't we? Sorry, Michael.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, Tom was going to share a story, but first, I couldn't remember how to reboot a Y60 terminal. So, DJ, could you coach me through that real quick?
Yeah, you just turn it off and on again, because there's no software to upgrade. It's all hardware. It's the future.
Good, Tom.
But kudos for the Y60 reference.
I used to work at a financial institution, so that was our terminals.
Well, like everybody else, I've got a sea of historic screw ups, but I thought I'd share two very recent ones. Um, Mine's very similar to yours, DJ. I was actually working on Dina's uh, dev challenge. We were working through it to, test it and build out a few more features for it. And if anybody's already worked on week 3, maybe into week 4 of that dev challenge, we're taking an OD to service, and we're calling it from Fiori. Particularly, we want to trigger an action, and then after the action, we want to refresh the model so we can show the action is updating some data. I had the action call working just fine, and really proud. I'd never done that before, a bound action from Fiori via the OData model. So I was flying high because I know how to refresh the model. That's the easy part. But for the life of me, the model would not refresh. And it's like it's a simple call. It did not understand why it wouldn't work. I spent 2 hours going down a rabbit hole of trying all different kinds of things, forcing the model to refresh, calling this, updating something in the model. Nothing would work. It just never refreshed. And then it dawned on me, it's an asynchronous call. And I don't have a callback. I don't have an await. And as I put that in, I even had it in an async function. So all I needed was to put it in a await in front of it. And right before I tested, I thought, there's a part of me that hopes this doesn't work because it's such a ridiculous thing to have missed. And then there's the other half of me hopes it really does work because I just want to be done with this and end my day, and sure enough, it did work. That was it. It was just so glaringly obvious, simple, but I had just spent, like I said, hours going down the rabbit hole, looking inside the model. I thought maybe there was a bug in the framework, all kinds of stuff. And so the lesson learned there is the simplest solution is often the right one.
Let me ask you this. I mean, maybe not a table flip because there's too much stuff on your desk there, but did a mug end up in the door?
No, mug did not end up in the door that day.
Okay.
A mug through the door is a very special occasion. That doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Oh.
And I had a similar situation as far as obvious staring you in the face recently. The developer news, what was that, 2 weeks ago? I got to the end of we do like a Scrum stand up to assign items in the developer news for anybody that doesn't know how we do that. And we do that on Wednesday mornings and then ship the news Thursday afternoons. And I went down through all the items and assigned, and it was like, okay, anything else? And I was ready to move on. And Vitaly very kindly spoke up and said, yeah, Devtoberfest. And here we are, we're living, getting ready for Devtoberfest all day long, every day for the past couple months, basically. And I completely forgotten that Devtoberfest was starting in a week and that we should mention that on the news. So, sometimes you just get so deep into something, even when it's not coding, that you just miss the obvious right in front of you.
Can't see the wood for the trees.
So I got one that you brought up, Tom, that or I can bring up because you mentioned something that anybody here ever done anything with SCO Unix? Okay, DJ. So Santa Cruz operations. So that version of Linux, or of Unix, is something that was put into a blade in a phone server, PBX, and it was running voice over IP in its infancy. So that's how they would build up. And in there, you had to, with voice over IP in the SCO Unix, identify you were going to use UDP, which is the protocol that says if there's something wrong with these packets, don't resend them. But when I was first setting up the phones, I didn't know to set that flag. So I'm sitting here going, it can't be as easy as telling it not to send it again. But what was happening was you would make a phone call and it would have bad packets in the voice and it would resend those and cause echoes and trash on the line. And I couldn't figure out why. And it was because I was resending bad packets. So until I flagged UDP yes, it kept resending the wrong thing. So it's like sometimes you don't want to believe that that's the answer, that you should just stop doing what you programmed and turn it off. But asynchronous is very good in voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, the most simple things are the ones which drives you crazy. So for those who don't know, and that's the reason why I'm not in developer news right now, and I don't show up that often. I'm doing a little bit of a like side thing for a couple of months, doing some architecture in a different team, and I've implemented a feature, and of course, as a good developer, you write unit tests. And we as advocates, we barely do that. So I haven't written any unit tests in ages. So I'm in Xcode, I'm writing unit tests, and I'm really thinking like all the time, like how would you test that and blah, 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 because I'm not in the game at that point, right? Because I know how to write code, but I don't test. Like when we write any, like we test it by clicking and running and seeing.
We
but
test
we
it by
don't write,
sending it to production.
right? Like in advocacy, we write like samples and stuff, and we don't really write unit. Like I don't write. Maybe you do, but I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah. See, so I'm going ahead and coding. I was like, I'm amazing. There's not even one compile time error. There's nothing. I'm so good. I know how to do this. This is amazing. Like I'm feeling so great at that point, like a true hacker. And then at some point, like the other guy walks by and he's looking into my monitor and he's like, "Oh, you know that you don't have the test target selected, right? In your build, because in Xcode you can have multiple tests, right?" I was like, "Wait, what?" So I look up and I have the app target in there, not the test target, because they're separated, right? And I was like, okay, let's see. Select this test target. All of a sudden, 240 compile time errors. This broke my neck. I was like, oh God, okay. Let me fix that now. And then I recognized how dependent we are of the compiler. At least I am. Yeah, that was a funny thing. I'm out of stories, Josh. I'm sorry.
No problem. Actually, it looks like Nora just joined. I know Nora von Thenen wanted to share a story as well. So Nora, if you could introduce yourself and tell your story for this Fun Friday, that would be great.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be part of it. I'm Nora. I'm also a developer advocate for AI. And my story is actually kind of embarrassing, probably as all of them. So I was thinking of sharing it or not, but I'm just going to share it anyway. So it happened during my master's thesis. And my thesis was actually about finding people in servers called beacons. And these servers are special because they have like DNA information of people, but only the variances of people. So you have like 98% of your DNA is the same with everyone else. And these 2%, around 2%, I don't remember exactly, but are like your own DNA, right? Like your special variances that only you have, or like your family members and stuff. And you can query these servers and ask, like, do you have this variance in your database? And then the server says yes or no. But the problem is that these servers are associated with diseases. So like, for example, Alzheimer's, autism, or whatever. So if I find you in the server, I know that you have that disease. So there was a paper about it when I did my master's degree, and they used like, I think 1,000 queries or something of variances of a person to find out if you're in the server or not. So my thesis was about reducing that number. And I actually did end up reducing it to like a handful of queries, but on the way, I obviously had to implement their paper first. And it was a very simple statistical model, like really not so difficult. And I implemented it in, I think, MATLAB or something. Also not so difficult. I mean, it was just one line of code, actually.
Okay, so not too bad. So everything sounds like it's going well so far.
Yeah, right. But the problem was, what you would expect from the statistical model is like you get a probability, right? Like the person is in or not. And the more no's you have, the surer you should be, more sure, whatever. Anyway, the surer you should be that the person is not in the server. But my model was like, it went down with no's, like not probable. And then when I had a yes, it would like spike up all the way and be like really sure that the person is in. And I'm like, that can't be, right? That's weird. And then I had another no, and it would go like all the way down. So I kept checking my code, and obviously it was about a parenthesis. How do you say that? I can never get it right. I have to say this word a couple of times now, but parenthesis. So I knew it was about that, but I had them everywhere, and still I had the same error. So I go to the meeting with my professor. I'm like, yeah, I honestly, I just think they made a mistake. I was so sure of myself because I had parentheses everywhere. So I don't know, it had to work, but it didn't. And I had all my colleagues look at it. Everyone was like, no, it looks right. My professor looked at it. Yeah, it looks right. Your code looks good. Maybe they really made a mistake. And like, we were all so sure that it can't be us, really stupid because, I mean, obviously it was us. Yeah. And actually, the only way I fixed it was by putting random parentheses everywhere in my code where they really didn't belong, but just I kept adding them and then it worked. And I honestly
It worked
still
because you added incorrect ones, or it highlighted.
Yeah, I mean, I must
correct
have randomly added a correct one somewhere. But it was such a long statistical formula that I just had parentheses everywhere at some point. And well, in the end, it worked, but it took me weeks.
Wow.
It was really, really ridiculous.
Wow. That is a true bang your head against the wall kind of scenario.
Unbelievable. And so many people looked at it and everyone was like, no, it looks good.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. Well, anything else?
No, I mean, anything after that is not comparable.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for jumping in. Actually, it looks like Shilpa and Shrini from the India Developer Advocates have joined, and they have a couple of stories to tell. And then after that, we'll be wrapping up. So thank you again, Nora, and let's hand it over to Shilpa.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for asking about the How Did I Miss segment. I have a scenario to share. So before, I guess you know that before I became a developer advocate, I was a product owner of S/4HANA Embedded Analytics. So this was a very early release of S/4HANA Cloud Edition, and then one of the always talked about the word was integration. So in analytics, the most anticipated project was the integration of SAP Analytics Cloud Story and S/4HANA Cloud Edition. So we had to get the stories that is listed in SAP Analytics Cloud, and those stories should be listed down in a Fiori UI5 application as in S/4HANA Cloud. So this had a lot of visibility, and with the visibility comes the pressure from the senior management as well, and whatever it is, we had to get it released. So there were a lot of dependency because we were talking about integration of two products, right? And the dependency was also in different layers. We were working in S/4HANA Cloud layer. The dependency was on the SAC product as well as the infrastructure and the basis layer as well. So while the product, when the release was nearing, we understood that we were not in par with whatever the project status that we had to reach, and we bumped into a lot of issues that we could not do the seamless integration. But as I said, this had a high visibility, and whatever it is, the message had to go that yes, we can do the integration. And I just don't like to say it, but being a product owner, I had to kind of accept a very lame workaround where we said like, okay, because we are in the early release of S/4HANA Cloud, and a cloud release is always, it comes with, that time it was 3 months early releases. So we came up with a very lame workaround saying, yes, we are able to get the response from SAC from one product, but it's just that seamlessly we are not able to list down the response that we are getting. So whatever the response we got in the form of a JSON format from SAC, we came up with a very lame workaround. I hate to say that, but wherein we said in our Fiori application only, we'll give a possibility where the user will capture the response and enter the JSON format, so that it will be the UI5 will read the response and then list down all the stories. So yes, we did not like it, but considering it was a cloud release, right, which means we also had a benefit that every 3 months, I'm talking about the early days. Now the cycle is different. The releases reaches to the customer much faster. So that's why we did the risk analysis, thinking, okay, what is the risk of this workaround? How do we fall? What is the category? And considering that this was a key user app, which means it is a very maybe a small amount of people who will be using that app, not all the business, like the business users will not be using it. So considering that a key user, a person is the one who will be using the app, and somehow if we just pass that release, and in the next release we can get the entire integration done properly. So we did this kind of risk analysis, and we said, okay, risk is not high, and kind of like, okay, let us accept this kind of a workaround where we say, okay, for now, this is like, a try it out kind of a thing. Yes, you have this JSON response, but you just enter it over here in this UI5, and then our UI5 application will read the response and show you in a very nice list report kind of a thing. So that was one of the little bit, I can say, like, how did I miss that? But yeah, we had a lot of dependencies, a lot of integrations, 2 different products, and it was a very early releases. So many lessons learned. One thing is, be very, very careful whenever we're doing the commitment, because we cannot take back our word. But that was a very good experience, and learned a lot on this screwed up thing. It was not a screwed up. We just had to do it for 3 months, and then immediately in the next the next release, we got the complete seamless integration between the 2 products, and it worked fine. As a precautionary thing, we also checked every day. We were checking in the cloud reporting how many users are using our app, so that we get to know if they feel any issues and all, we can contact them directly, and we can help an extra, like we can provide additional support. So some precautionary things we took, but this is one of some incident which I thought I can put it in this segment. Yeah, that was my experience.
Thanks for asking, Josh. My story is way back before I joined SAP. I used to work as a web developer consultant in a company, and our team was responsible for multiple sites. We were the IT division of that company, and we had recently switched to a Drupal content management system, and our main site had 30,000 pages, and I was working on an experimental feature on one page which had a static US map, and I had to convert the static map into an interactive map. And I was trying out different JavaScript libraries like Mapbox and Leaflet, and since it was an experimental feature, we would create PR, merge to master. There was no strict code review process because we were also a small team. So I one fine day, I did work on that feature, and then I checked in the code and I left home. And couple of days later, suddenly we started to get calls from our internal stakeholders as well as external customers saying that the site has become extremely slow. And me and one other teammate, we were trying to debug the issue to find out why this occurred. And how this Drupal content management system works is it has something called global template, and that is common across all the pages, and page specific templates. And my team member, he found that I had included a file, JSON file, which was responsible for creating the interactive map, and it was a file of a huge size. I think it was a few MB sizes, and since it was loading on a global template and it was loading at the top of the page, all the resources on that page were waiting to load the file and then render the page. So, and we had to quickly, fix this issue and then push it to production. So this was a mistake from my side, and but luckily no one got fired that day. So that's how my story ends. Back to you, Josh.
Thank you for adding your story into this discussion. Anyway, we're almost done here. We've actually talked for over 45 minutes, I think. So a great time. It's again, this is a Friday night when you guys are watching this, or Friday afternoon or morning, wherever you are, for at the end of week 3 for Devtoberfest. We have one more week left. It's going to be a great week. I don't know if anybody else wants to shout anything out about week 4. I know that the last Fun Friday will be a trivia night. Shilpa is going to be hosting that in the India time zone, and then I'll be hosting it in the European American time zone area. So that's what's coming up for my responsibilities in week 4. The rest of it is all blank to me because I'm hyper focused on also getting ready for Tech Ed and traveling back to India to be on site, and also put on a lot of great content for the people that are joining remotely for Tech Ed. So that's it for my commercial stuff. Anybody else have something they want to say before we wrap up?
I'll wrap up by saying, I think, and I had one beer. Basically, we're all idiots. It's just how you deal with that makes you a developer.
As someone who's called an idiot on almost a daily basis, I agree. I won't say who calls me an idiot.
I'm the biggest idiot here.
I don't know.
Always remember, the future is terminal.
Right.
That's a good way to end.
That's a gooey way to end.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, now it's time to end.
Seriously, thank you guys very much for joining. Thanks everybody for watching and communicating in the chat, and thanks for being part of Devtoberfest. We'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah.